But we did have a very long county council meeting tonight, and
Yes.
let's talk about what happened.
Yes, this was our county council meeting for September 17th. It went rather long. Once again, I don't necessarily believe that it was due to the complexity of the issues. It just garnered a lot of discussion. And we had input from citizens on different things, and we had a discussion from all the council members. But we started out hearing from a gentleman who talked about methadone clinics. And it's not something I was that familiar with, but he talked about how they're in the community, some of the benefits that they have, but also some of the complications that they have. He brought some interesting points forward, and I think council took that as information and moved forward with it. From there, we had nothing in third reading, but in second reading, it was encouraging that we had a developer and group of citizens that a month and a half or so ago were a lot of angst about the project that was going on and how it would affect the community. We moved forward with it with the hope that a level of compromise would come about and that they would talk, and they came back and it seemed like that happened. And so they're looking at a compromise with some buffers and some zones to protect a commercial development from a residential development. So it's always encouraging when you see citizens working together. Still have some hurdles to go, but that was moving forward also. From there, we went into a number of what we call fee in lieu of tax situations, and this is a development tool that we use. It gets into joint county parks. It gets into working with different entities who are looking to invest in Anderson and do anything from industry to solar farms. We've talked about apartment complexes in the past, but these are people who are coming and they're wanting to either invest with money from outside the county, or they're wanting to redesignate their property in county from something that's probably not giving the county very much revenue to something that is giving the county revenue. So we have to look at each one of these as a business deal and act in the best interest of our constituents while maintaining a level of negotiation to always be working to move forward on it.
And the solar farms we've had quite a few over the last several years, bring something to rural areas that aren't going to be, the land's not going to be sold for industrial, and it doesn't bring any taxation on the infrastructure of any kind. No new roads are needed, nothing, no new services are needed. They're just taking old cow pastures and putting solar panels on.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the solar farms, and Ms. Wilson talked about it, and Mr. Nelson, the Economic Development, talked about it. And with the solar farm, typically you may have a very rural piece of property that was being used as farmland, and farmland is taxed very minimal, very low. And these folks have gotten to the point that they want some income producing on their property, and they take on a solar farm. In the situation we looked at, the property was paying about $100 a year in farm taxes. Well, with the fee in lieu of agreement that allowed these folks to put a solar farm on, it actually went to $8,000 a year in taxes. So what it did was allow the people in a rural area to stay on their land and maintain their land, produce some income, but it also produces income to Anderson County. And we didn't have to go in there and put infrastructure in, like roads or things of that nature. Hopefully you don't have to have police or fire responding to a solar farm. It's a standalone entity. So it's an interesting concept that we've seen more of lately, and I feel like we'll see more of it moving forward. From there, we talked about commercial equipment in residential zones, and this was an area that's been debated for a long time, and it's moved forward in this first reading, going on the second reading, and it's where individuals in a residentially zoned area, if somebody tries to run a business out of that area, and if that goes into code enforcement and maybe goes to court, how does that work? And county council has been looking at that for a number of years because many people use their homes for a variety of reasons, but there were some egregious situations where people were running a large-scale business out of a home and it was negatively affecting surrounding neighbors. So we've had to look at that in the Planning and Public Works Committee, and that was brought forward as an item on the regular council agenda. So it moves forward, but I believe there will be some more debate as it moves forward on how you define this, how you enforce this, and what should be included and what should not be included. From there, we did a couple more fee in lieu of items that involved economic development. and we went into some resolutions that complement these items. So a lot of times we'll make a fee in lieu of agreement, and then procedurally we'll have resolutions that back up the agreement and actually allow our legal team to move forward and put the documents in a contractual way to make it happen. We also talked about bringing more diversity and bringing new people to county boards. And county boards can be anything from the museum board, the library board, the economic development board. There's a number of boards, and we're always looking for good people of all backgrounds and cross-section of our society to come forward and serve on these boards and help council, help the county staff with input on how to run these things better, how to make sure that we're providing services to our constituents that is what they want and what they need. We had a couple of bid approvals where we're cleaning up an old mill site with some grant money that we approved in earlier meetings. And then anytime we have a bid, we have a procedure that we follow, and companies have to come forward and put forth their capabilities. They have to put forth their price, and we evaluate those to make sure that we're getting the best value for the taxpayer. From there, we went into executive session, and that was probably the meat of the meeting tonight. And the reason we do executive session is because county council and staff is negotiating, let's say, a contractual matter or a legal matter, and to come out in total with everything going on would compromise those negotiations. So we go in executive session so we can talk about it, and then we come out of executive session to vote on an action. And the action doesn't always tell the detail of what went on, because until the court case is finalized, until the property is closed, or until the contract is signed, we need to keep that confidential, but we want to let the public know what we're working on. And when all of those things are finished, then it all becomes public knowledge. But tonight we had legal matters concerning right-of-way for a sewer project on Well Pine Road. We also talked about a sheriff's substation going on in Watson Village and some contractual matters from a real estate standpoint. We've had an ongoing legal matter with the Iva Sewer Service, and it's a complicated issue because the county, the city of Anderson, the town of Iva have different levels of authority and fulfillment when it comes to delivering sewer. So this is an item where you're seeing a city, a county, and a town having to work together. And so there's an issue here that we're having a contractual dispute, and we're going to have to try to figure that out. There's also an item with a real estate item with the TTI property that the county had acquired in Pickens County that was complementary to the one that we had in Anderson County. And then the final item was a medical services contract for the jail. And anytime you take in prisoners in the jail or folks into the jail, you want to make sure that you're providing adequate medical care. And so the sheriff and his department has done a wonderful job of working with the CJCC as a justice coordinating committee to make sure that we're offering the right things to protect the county from liability standpoint and do the right thing by the people that we're having to hold. And so that's an ongoing project that's been going on, and this is one of the implementations of it.
And to make that clear, you did pass resolutions on all those things after you came out of executive session to move forward.
Yes.
With these. Like and the biggest one I think people will be interested in is to go ahead and negotiate a lease in Watson Village for a substation. There is going to be a sheriff substation in Watson Village. Just negotiating the lease now.
Yes, and that's exactly what's going on. If you're going to have a county entity, operate in a private facility, just like everywhere else, you're going to have a lease and you're going to pay rent and you're going to have a term of the lease. And so, things like that are negotiating of nature, and that's what we're moving forward on. And that's something that's been talked about in the Public Safety Committee meeting and brought forth to council, and basically allows us to give the authority to staff, to our legal team, to move forward and execute those contracts. Ending up the night, we had a couple of requests for council. We had a a wonderful genealogy society here in Anderson, and that's become a hobby of many people. And so there's resources on the county level if you're wanting to research your family history and trace some things back. We actually allocated some money tonight to have some historical volumes at the society for our citizens to use. We also did some items for the Belton Center for the Arts and also for the Star Athletic Association. So the county totally recognizes that all these towns and cities or entities are in the county. We want to support our partners, and we want to support things that increase the quality of life. And after that, we had comments from council members where they talked about issues that they were interested in. They complimented staff or complimented items that were going on in the community that were positive things. And we had a late adjournment, but we had a robust discussion. And like always, we had good attendance by citizens. We had good input from the citizens, and we always welcome people to come out. And if you can't come out, send us a text, send us an email, feel free to call us. If we don't know, we'll get you in touch with county staff, and we're here to serve you.
And we're having a special meeting Friday, a special call council meeting Friday.
Yes, and it is at noon in the county council chambers. The agenda is released today, and it's going to be a discussion on the road fee. There's been about 15 to 17 town hall meetings hosted by different entities and different council members to get input from citizens at the road fee. So if you can make it out on Friday, please do so, or if not, talk to your council member ahead of time.